Michael Ciavarella, how you doing?
Good, Brent. Thank you.
Did
Thank
I
you so much
pronounce
for the opportunity.
did I pronounce that right?
It was perfect. You even rolled the R. That was precision.
Classic. Have you been?
Yeah, been pretty good. Been pretty
Good.
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 Yeah, absolutely. Good times at the moment. Things are pretty busy.
Yep.
But yeah, all positive, and making progress, which is great. How about
Fan-
yourself?
Fantastic. I'm great, mate. I'm doing really well. Getting a lot done. If you've been following me on the socials, and just can't wait to go for a surf. That's what I'm like hanging out for big time. So
Love it.
yeah, really looking forward to that. It'll be amazing
We're
just to
not
be in the
we're
water
not far off
again.
that.
Just to be in the water again and feel the sun, and like nothing better than going for a surf and stepping out of the water. You put your feet on the sand and you just got that lethargic feeling and you're tired, and then you get home and you got sand in between your toes and you find it's in your bed. And I just love that for some reason.
That's
it's,
fantastic. I
it's
love it.
bizarre. It's bizarre. But hey, Michael, tell the people what you do.
Yeah, thank you. What do I do? So I'm a father of three. I'll start there with families. Family's very important to me. So father of three, got three young children, 7, 4, and 2. So that makes it a very interesting balance. In my part time, so it's a bit of a hobby. I actually DJ, so produce a bit of music
Yeah,
and
awesome.
DJ. I've been doing that for over 20 years now.
What
And
sort of
then on the
DJing? What sort of music and DJing do you do?
more house music. House music's probably my main preference, dance music. But
Yeah.
I've been doing mobile DJing for quite some time too, which incorporates corporate functions. I've done a lot of work with the VRC at the Spring Carnival, AFL, tennis. So I think you need a bit of variety with your genres. So my preference is house music, but pretty much all types of music.
Yeah. So what about
Yeah.
like
So
Fisher? Fisher up on the Gold Coast. You're
I
aspiring,
don't.
don't you?
No, I
Oh, check
don't.
out Fisher.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to. Thank
Paul
you. Thank you
Fisher.
for that tip.
Yeah, Paul
Yeah.
Fisher used to be a professional surfer, and he was like, he wasn't in the elite, but he was below that. And then he made this
Yep.
massive transformation, and now he travels the world and he's a DJ playing with the
Oh,
biggest of the
nice.
best. So check out, yeah, Paul Fisher.
Fantastic.
Um,
Thank you.
so is that
Yeah.
is that the passion or what? So the
Uh,
DJing?
Oh, I,
Yeah.
I think the segue talking into passion relating to my career is actually about teamwork and creating high performing teams,
Yeah.
and doing that with a technology or a digital lens is something I like. So at the moment, I'm at Swimming Australia. I'm the GM of technology there, looking after everything from service operations, security, the operational side, as well as the transforming side for how do we create a culture that is a lot more agile, open to take risks and innovate. That includes our software delivery. Innovation is included in that as well. So across the full spectrum of data,
Mm.
technology, and digital, which is a passionate of mine. Been at swimming for about a year now, and previous to that, most of my career has been in technology, but relating to teamwork specifically.
High performing teams, technology, leadership. 2020 going to 2021 is going to have a massive, massive role to play. And I think, I feel personally a sense of responsibility being in technology at the moment in the current climate and what we're experiencing. And, I think tech is going to help lead us out of this, help lead humanity out of and look through and out of whatever it is that we're going through. And I think empathy and really investing in people within our teams is going to be something that's going to be, the ROI on that is going to be profound. What are your thoughts around leadership and high performing teams? And
A- a- Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with probably the digital side, because often the technology part is the easier part. But I would agree definitely. We're in a period now where the importance of technology and digital is really showing. If you think about that in a retail framework, a lot of the retail stores are physically closed. So their ability to create a transaction through click and collect is really, really important. The pure digital players out there, when you're ordering something online, often you would receive your goods within 2 to 3 days. And I think the more traditional players, they're being tested to a certain extent. So if you are ordering goods and you have to wait 4 or 5 days to get that, I think consumers aren't as patient these days,
mm,
especially
mm,
the younger generation,
mm.
when there is a want and a desire to get what they want now. And unfortunately, if you can't deliver that service, they'll go to your competitors. So I think how has that played a role with COVID? If I think about swimming specifically, a lot of the pools have been closed for a period of time. And that's probably different across different states as well.
Mm,
As we know, Melbourne's probably been hit a little bit harder than some of the other cities. So
just a
I
little bit.
think for us, yeah, absolutely. For us is how do we connect swimmers in different states? If Brent is swimming in one pool and Michael's swimming in another pool, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't compete against one another. How could we
Mm,
do that in a virtual way? If I'm in the comfort of my own home because I can't leave my house, that shouldn't stop me watching a friend of mine who is swimming at a competitive level. So I think the interaction of digital plays a key role in doing that. Um, Thinking about the human side and the high performing team side, I think that's really important. I think resilience is absolutely one thing that's tested a lot of us at this point in time. We need to be flexible in our approach. We need to be adaptable. And as always, I think we need to work with team members with a lot of empathy. Um,
mm,
there are so many things that are happening at the moment where we may not actually be aware of what is taking place in the mind or in the personal life of our team. So I think that's really important to be there to support one another as
mm,
a team,
yeah.
um, and look at the specific skill sets you have within your team. I think uh, at times it's absolutely the responsibility of the leader to open up and present their vulnerabilities. So the leader may not be always the best person to connect with on an emotional level, right? But
Mm,
if you've got other team members that can do that or look out for one another, I think right now is a sign for everyone to play a leadership role and help out those
mm.
within the relevant teams and even beyond their teams.
Yeah, it's interesting, mate. Like, because I kind of think, we need structure, and we need hierarchy for sure in organisations. However, what I'm observing and also noticing is there's this level of equality, like in people who are in business at the moment, at the same time, where empathy and understanding and compassion, and maybe people not going at the speed or the pace that they had been previously in business, and people actually slowing down to actually take time out to hear how people are going.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and from my perspective and what I'm hearing and the experiences is it's actually not having a negative effect on the business results.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. We're seeing a lot of productivity gains at the moment, and I think it's the paradigm shift about sitting at your desk working your 9 till 5.
Mm,
I think those days are gone, to be honest. And we've seen that as well with the ability to work from home, flexible working arrangements, working times,
yeah.
to suit the needs of something like homeschooling or being able to go to the shops for 10 minutes to get something that you need.
Yeah.
Um, we've absolutely had to be able to respond to that. And I think the organisations that have done that well are the ones that are reaping the benefits. And
Yeah.
specifically at Swimming Australia, we've seen significant uplift in the work that we're doing across technology. Given that a lot of people can't be in the pool, what a
Yeah.
great opportunity for us to start to expand our digital footprint and build things now.
Mm,
Sorry, that's just the phone. Just
yeah.
and build a lot of great capability when we may not have the opportunity for all events we're running,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes you go through an embargo period. It's the old saying in retail. The Christmas trees are going to arrive on the 25th of December. That happens every year. It's not going to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Generally, 2 to 3 weeks before that, you don't want to make any changes in technology because that can interrupt your Christmas flow. I think for us, when we're running peak season and a lot of people in the pool, you probably don't want to introduce too many software development changes. But given that not a lot of people are swimming at the moment, what a great opportunity to invest in that, get that happening now, which will
Mm.
reinvent and re-kick off the sport when it does commence.
There's a lot of people working more on their businesses at the moment than in them. And it's such a great time to be doing that. And I think it's also a great time to be doing it in life in general. Like if you can upskill and renovate yourself in the extra time you've had, I think you come out the other side a better version of yourself than when you went into it. And so, we talk about empathy and understanding, and also, vulnerabilities, how much of a role that plays in our lives each day and our businesses. And I was talking about, the organisations from a human to human perspective seem like pretty flat at the moment, which I kind of like. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the leader who's the person to show that vulnerability. It needs somebody to play that role, and anyone can
Agree.
do it. Uh,
Agree.
yeah, and it can really break down and smash through some of the, I guess, beliefs that people have got about, what vulnerability is, what weakness is, what's required in the workplace. And you just have to be a better team the closer you are together. And the more bullshit and the more fronts and the more masks that people wear, you just can't get close. So it's such a good time just to Take off the masks. I've been saying it for 3 or 4 years, and I'm not talking about the health masks. Just want to make sure I put that in. I mean, I've been talking about this for 3 or 4 years because I could see the kind of system was keeping people stuck, not being themselves, not being an authentic. And it's kind of like, who knows what this is, whether or not it's a great awakening or whatever it is, but it's going to be fascinating to see more and more people connect with their true selves, their purposes, and hopefully we come out the other side in a more prosperous world with more happy people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think calling those out with authenticity is really important. So
Mm,
we run a lot of retrospectives in our team. We practice agile and agility, so we want to continuously improve on a regular basis. And often, if there is some commentary that is a little bit generic in a way, it's really great to see other team members actually call that out and say, "What did you mean by that? Is that are we breaking down the root cause? What's the elephant in the room? What are we trying to
mm,
unpack?"
yeah.
And it's not about having a personal go at anyone. It's always about how can we improve as a team, but not sweep things underneath the carpet. So I think that's really important. So bringing your true self, making sure that everyone is talking with as much authenticity as possible,
Yeah.
and being a person, being a human. I think at the end of the day, we're not saving lives in software delivery and what we're doing at Swimming Australia. We're trying to make a big impact on the sport, and in people's lives. We've got 15 odd million people in the country that love swimming. I mean,
Yeah.
when the Olympics is on, it's one
Oh,
of the
yeah.
biggest sports that people watch, right? And
Yeah.
Australia is a very high competitive country in the area of swimming. We've done a great job for many years. So it's all about just empowering people and getting them part of the sport.
We've had so many champions in the sport of swimming, haven't we?
We have,
Like
we
so
have,
many great champions, and like it's probably it's pride and joy of Australians when the Olympics start or the Commonwealth Games start, and the pool events are always on at the start of the meets, and we tend to come out, we smash them.
yeah,
Dawn
absolutely.
Fraser, Ian Thorpe, Kieran
Yeah,
Perkins. Like how many champions have we had? The Mean Machines. There's just been so many
yeah,
of them,
we
so
certainly
many of them.
have. We certainly
And
have, and well, we kind of talked a bit about resilience at the start. It's an interesting time. The cycle between Olympics is 4 years,
yeah,
so all the Olympians were getting prepared, and then to have that delayed by 12 months, this is a really really interesting time for them now, in terms of how do they get back to that right training schedule. And I think what I often hear from a lot of the head coaches is it's about the mental game. Just as much as it is about the physical. So yeah, we've had a great opportunity. We've done a really, really great job as a country,
mm,
and I'm really looking forward to that continuing. There's
yeah,
some
awesome.
amazing names that you mentioned. Yeah, no
Yeah, oh,
doubt.
yeah, incredible. Hey,
Yeah,
uh, when you talk about the psychology, and this is all leadership, personal leadership, the psychology, and working through remote working, working through massive levels of uncertainty at the moment, working through what's going to come next, working through all these things, and we talk about the psychology. How can we create resilience in people during these times and help them level up or tool up or become more resilient? Because I believe that resilience comes through going through shit, to be honest, going through some
yeah,
tough experiences and then finding your way out of them. So let's say we've all been thrust with this challenging experience now. How do we create more resilient leaders and people while we're in the moment?
that is a great question.
If
And
I asked,
one that's yeah, you certainly did. You put me on the spot. You put me
yeah,
on the fly.
okay, I
No, that
love
was a
it.
great one.
Nice
Yeah.
enough.
I think from my perspective, it's about that's really where you grow, right? I think if you're sitting in your comfort zone, it feels comfortable, but there's not a lot of personal growth or development that generally takes place there.
Mm,
It goes on to the notion about continuous improvement. I think when you've set yourself up and you've achieved a massive amount of success, I think the next year that is then your benchmark. So
yeah,
it's all about personal growth. Being in that area where you may have to face up into a meeting or you've got a really, really tough deliverable, when you've got the butterflies in the stomach, that's generally the feeling when you're in that moment. There might be a little bit of panic. When you come out of that moment, you actually go, well, that wasn't as hard as what it felt like. And I'm really glad I got through that. I think a leader's role is just to reinforce that's what we want on a continual basis, because we all are striving for continuous improvement. We're all
mm,
striving for personal growth and development. And the way that you truly get that resilience is doing things that really feel uncomfortable. Being
yeah,
able to stretch the boundaries a little bit.
yeah,
Um, and this brings me back to a personal experience that I had at a previous organization. you could see it as a strength, you could see it as a weakness. I really like going pretty fast. From my perspective, you could see that as being, oh, geez, Michael's the guy who's a little bit impatient. But from a consumer's perspective or a customer's perspective, I think that if they're on a mobile device or they're looking at something that your brand is partaking in, and they're at the train station, if the web page is not loading within 3 seconds, the first thing they're going to go is the right-hand side and click on that little X in the top right-hand side, right? And they'll go, I've forgotten about that brand. So I think it's for us, it's always about stretching that elastic band. A big learning for me in resilience is there's been times where I've probably tried to stretch that a little bit too far, and then trying to recover from that has been harder. So I think
what do you mean?
what you want to do is,
what do you mean when you stretch it too far? Do you mean you push people a bit far and it's found it hard to come back from?
Yeah, correct. Stretching people a little bit too far. I like that. I think that you often go at the speed of those that are above you. So I think if the executive leaders and middle management are setting a high standard, the rest of the team generally follow suit. And leading by example is a big principle that I believe in. But I think if you're stretching that elastic band too far, it's often that you'll tackle things like change resistance and change management, and people not wanting to be on that bus. And I think that's okay. I think actually talking to people and giving them an out, that's totally fine. And I think that's part of leadership too. If I think about a relay team, if you've got, there's 4 swimmers, and if your top 3 swimmers are all 9 out of 10, and then the person that is, the 4th swimmer is a 5 out of 10, those that are the 9 out of 10 are probably going to be looking at the person that's the 5 out of 10. And if the head coach is not doing anything about that, they'll say, well, I'm a 9, there's a 5. The 5 seems like it's acceptable. I'll drop my 9 to a 7. Yeah. And then the 5 will go, well, there's been no activity or no action that's taken place with my 5. So I think that's acceptable. And I think about resilience and leadership in that space, you can't accept the 5s, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
You want everyone to strive to be, the 8s and the 9s where possible.
100%. And we can accept the 5s so long as they're working towards being the 6s, because it's not like people are going to go from 5s to 10s. So everybody's on a journey, right? And I think, what's something I've learned, it's funny to say moving fast, I've learned is about patience during this time and meeting people exactly where they are. And some people have been through more shit in their lives and they've got greater capacity to be more resilient than others. And for those who are in those situations, who've been through a fair bit of stuff and they've built up the resilient capacity and tank, they probably need a little bit less, but they just need a little bit of encouragement, let them know they're there. And then there's the ones at the moment who potentially have got a lot going on across a number of different areas, and this is all too much. It's about, I believe as a leader, it's about, servant leadership, number one, but it's about removing a couple of things from them and letting them still feel that sense of pain or resistance or pressure against them, but not to the point where it's actually overwhelming them to the point that they're breaking down and they're not functional and they're not performing.
Totally agree.
But it's so much all the stuff that kind of you can't teach at university or science or whatever it is, but it's that intuition, it's that consciousness that you can't measure. Well, I don't know if there's anyone out there who's done measurements on consciousness, because I think it's one of the most underutilized, unleveraged things in business. I think so often in business we want to come from our mind and get everything right and solve all the problems, but we've got this greater gift inside us that we kind of at times can forget about and get away from. And we get to experience it. We go away on a holiday, or we go camping, and you're sitting out. And you might be looking up at the stars. And you might be on your own. The fire might be going. You can hear it flicking, and you look up at the stars, and you can really feel that sense of self and consciousness. Those moments are the moments that I try to create for myself when I'm in business, because I believe that's where great ideas come from. I believe where great problem solving comes from, great connection to others around us. And so I'm trying to be as conscious as I can every single day. And it's not always easy because, in the working environment, if you've got 101 things to get through on a day and you've got to process a lot of stuff, there's not too much time for spirit and consciousness there, because you've got to get stuff done. But it's in that time where we can stop, reflect, and be a little bit more quiet, that we can actually access that resource, which I believe leads to being more resilient people as well. It's a spiritual gift that we've got, and it's about harnessing it and tapping into it without sounding too much like a hippie in a greenie, right? So
no, I agree 100%. I think those are the things that you often deprioritize. Where, to be honest, they're actually one of the most important things to prioritize.
Yeah.
I am very outcomes focused.
Yeah.
That's just my natural behaviour. But I
Same.
think actually understanding the outcome that you want to achieve is really important. So
Mm.
having an outcome focus can actually be seen as a strength, just as long as you're focusing on the right outcome.
Yeah,
And an
definitely.
example for me is it comes back to IKEA. You know, when you get those, the kids' bed that you've got to put together, and you're like,
I
oh, there's 20
know.
parts, and there's
Stop it.
there's
I know,
there's the
mate.
instruction manual. I often go back to, I just want to get this bed done as quick as I can, right? There's 20 parts and there's screws everywhere. Just get it done, and I want to get it done in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
And I've learned that that's actually the wrong outcome to have. The right outcome is to enjoy the moment. If it takes you the whole day, well, so be it. But you're enjoying that moment with your family, putting the IKEA bed together.
sure.
But for me, I just go, wow, there's 20 parts. I just want to get it together quickly. So I think that's really important too for leadership. And the gift in that is actually being able to say no. Now, I think in the world of corporate and business, saying no is often seen as a negative, or it's perceived as a negative. I think if you've got 100 things on your list, but the top 3 priorities are really, really important, by
Mm.
effectively doing 100 things, you're asking for the top 3 things to be done slower, or you're effectively deprioritizing the top key strategic priorities, which might be your
Mm.
top 3. So I think saying no to the other 97 is actually showing your commitment to invest in the things that really truly matter,
Yeah.
whatever your top 3 priorities are. So I think it's all about getting yourself right, getting your team right, setting the key priorities, and sticking to the key priorities, but having some flexibility to pivot where you need to. And I think COVID has absolutely shown us that the time is now that we've absolutely had to respond quite quickly, and the
Mm.
plans we may have put in place aren't necessarily going to be perfect. Our
Yeah,
ability to
that's
respond to the plan is important rather than
yeah.
how good our plan was.
And that's okay. I think progress over perfection right now is a good
Yep,
mantra to sit in the back of your mind. We've just launched a website, and it's the same. It's like it's great. It's not perfect, but progress over perfection, especially at the moment.
yep,
Um, what about the day to day? I mean, you mentioned before, like enjoying each day and being in the moment and
yep,
appreciating everything. I know I'm very self-aware, and I analyze myself day in, day out, hour to hour pretty much. I psychoanalyze myself, which is great, but it also at times I can go down rabbit holes in my own head and not resurface for a couple of hours. And if I do it repeatedly over a number of periods of time, it can actually turn into something that's quite negative, and it can go down into a bit of a depressed state just through
yep,
that over analysis. So I
yep,
know I've been monitoring kind of like, living week to week. I've got my kids one week and I don't have them the other week. And then the
yep,
responsibilities of a number of businesses and team members, and, getting up each day and the things that, I'm passionate about: surfing, playing golf, seeing my friends, going out for dinner. All those things are the way I recharge and I travel. And not being able
yep,
to do that, how do I go about the fact of, appreciating each day, appreciating each moment? And my journey on it's been pretty incredible, where I've got I've built compassion up, I've built up patience,
yes,
I've built up understanding for other people, and I've just let progress progress or results and achievements have kind of taken a backward step, yet the progress and achievements have happened anyway. And I'm kind of like, how did that happen? um,
yeah.
so how do we each day enjoy the moment? I mean, do we have to shift our reward systems? Like sometimes you've got a task to do and you go, once I've done this task, I'm going to go do this. I might go for a run or whatever it might be. How do we change?
Yeah,
Do we need to change our reward systems during these times? And how so?
I think we do, absolutely. And I think the examples that you spoke about is actually making the investment, making the priorities, and focusing on yourself first. And I think that goes back to my original point a couple of questions ago about getting yourself right. I think if you're not in the right position yourself, it's very hard as a leader to make sure that everything's going to be on track with your team.
Yeah.
Um,
How
just
do you know?
just know it.
How do you know when you're right?
Oh, that I don't know if there's a formula to that.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, you know how you just wake up some days and just go, I'm not feeling that buzz, or something's not feeling right. I need to go for that surf, or for me, I just need to listen to a little bit of music, or
Yeah.
you may have attended something and it didn't necessarily go your way, and just go, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go for a run. I think for me, the first stage of lockdown, I was eating probably a little bit too much, if I'm honest. And in this second stage, I just went, I'm going to buy a sports watch. I'm going to start running a little bit more. By no means am I a fitness person. That persona group does not fit with my body image
You
or
look
who I
fit.
am.
You look fit.
Oh, Thank you, because it's neck up. But I think for me, it's all about, if I'm going to go for a run, I'll start at 500 meters. Then the next bit, I'll start at 1K. And if I'm not going to look at how long I'm running for, I'm not going to look at my lap times. I'm not going to compare myself to someone else. I'm just going to do what's comfortable for me. And what I've seen is, I put some tunes on, I go for a bit of a run, and before you know it, now I'm running for 50, 60 minutes and without really looking at my watch. Whereas when I started, I was like, I need to get, 3-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute Ks.
Yeah.
And then my shins were getting really sore. But
Yeah.
it
So it's
wasn't about how
the
fast I was
mind.
running. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then yeah. And then
and,
how
and
have
then
you
the
found the
last,
flow with how have
oh,
you found the flow with running when you're in that state, when you just start, I don't know, I find like I forget about time and you just go into
yeah,
dreamland and consciousness land. Do you find that with running? You go into your
I,
conscious?
I, I do.
Yeah.
And I've been, look, I like data and analytics as well. Sometimes I'll go for a run without music and I'll
Yeah.
just see how am I going? What's my flow like?
Yeah.
And then I'll listen to a different type of music and I just find that I can run a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm in that moment where I've gone, wow, I've actually run for 50 minutes and I feel like I can go for another 50. And quite often I think it's the music, it's the sun, it's the temperature, it's the ambience, it's running outside, it's seeing other
Yeah.
people outside going for a run too. And I'm like, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, and the purpose of getting fit is kind of out the door. I think I'm actually becoming mentally a lot fitter rather than physically. Whereas the initial goal was, I'm putting on weight, let's go for a run. But it's kind of evolved into that, interestingly enough. And
Incredible.
look, I hear a lot of stories about meditation and doing a lot of that. I've tried it. It hasn't necessarily worked for me, but I think I'm learning how to do it.
Yeah.
A couple of nights ago, I was up until really, really late and tossing and turning. I couldn't sleep, and I just went, bit of YouTube, headphones on, a guided meditation, which went for 15 minutes. I think I was asleep. I wake up in the morning and the headphones were still in. I'm like, well, that was a great meditation because I was tossing and turning. I couldn't sleep, and just listening to someone guide me through something, I don't know what the words are. It just allowed me just to relax and sleep. And whatever was on my mind, I just wrote down on a pen and paper and left it in the kitchen. And I just went, well,
Yeah.
that's out of my mind now. It's time for me to rest and rejuvenate, give that back to me.
There's been nights like that in the restaurant where you're not worn out from the day.
Yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
I'll go and lie down in bed. I'm like, I'm actually not tired here. I got to
Yeah.
get back up. I had a moment the other night, and I was like, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and funnily enough, it was 2 nights ago. It was 2:30 in the morning, and there was another number of other people in my friendship group who were also
Yep.
up at the same time. And I go, what's going on here tonight? Like tonight, it must well whether it's a moon or energy. I got no idea. I got
It,
no idea. But yeah, I mean, like it is. It's all you know. I try to create games in my mind as I go about each day. And for me, training and exercising is very different. The reasons why I do it and when I used to do it when I was a 15-year-old. Because
yep.
I started getting into the gym as a 15-year-old. I used to always love sport. I used to always love footy. And I was a little guy, and I still am a little guy, but I wanted to be a little bit bigger. And I also wanted to get the guns and hopefully impress the girls. So I used
Yes.
to go and train at this local gym down in called Trackside in Hampton. And I'd ride my bike to school. And I'd get to school as a 15, 16-year-old. I felt really good. I had the endorphins going. But I didn't really appreciate the endorphin hit back then as I do now. And so
Yes.
my reason for training now is very, very different. I notice when I wake up in the morning how I'm feeling, and it's generally the same. It's pretty even. And then if I go and train and I do weight training, which has got massive health benefits and psychology benefits for men, I'll do a weight training session and I feel $1,000,000. So I include that every single day as part of what I do. If I can't surf or play golf, I find the surfing is a great release, mind, body, soul. Golf's just a good way to ruin a great work, but a great walk. But I love the social aspect of it. But
Yes.
now the training is first for me. Now the training is about the mindset, the psychology to stay happy and really productive. And
Yes.
now, like the vanity side of things, it's just an added benefit. It's just a bonus, But I want to be active to go and do all the stuff I want to do in my life. That's why I do strength training, so I don't injure myself. So I'm stronger. I can enjoy the things I love for longer. Hopefully, enjoy my life for longer. But then there's vanity side, which comes third, which is a total flip from when I was a 15-year-old buck. How many years ago? Too many years ago. I don't know,
Yep.
24 years ago or something. 20.
Yep.
I don't know. So yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me as a novice in the fitness area, I was probably led by the vanity metrics myself.
Yeah.
You know, how fast can I run? I want to run further. Or I want to run a better time. And now I'm starting to see the benefits that the time that I'm running for is actually irrelevant. It's about just getting outside and enjoying some fresh air, and listening to music, which naturally just makes you happy. So
Mm,
I agree. I agree 100%. But I'm probably not at the same level that you're at. It's taken me longer to realize that.
yeah.
But I think that's a really important point.
Mm. Mate, 2021's just around the corner.
It is.
What does that mean for you? What does that mean for Swimming Australia? What do you got? What's coming up?
Well, 2021 is a Olympic year.
It is.
Yes. So
It
yeah,
is.
so next year we'll be in the Olympics. We'll be at Tokyo. So everyone is ramping up for that and getting prepared for that. For us, it's about performing when it matters. That's one of our strategic pillars. That's really important.
I love it.
I think for my role in technology is about how do I influence, how do I help, how do I bring those that are at the grassroots level to be able to connect with swimming. How can they do that through digital technology? How do they look at our website and go, wow, this is really, really great in terms of what things are happening there? I want to be able to watch my friend who's competing at a local level or at a regional level, and I can watch them, even though I may not be able to physically attend it, irrespective of COVID. I think we're seeing that in a lot of other sports. I think that's a point where we need to get to. So just about digital transformation and moving towards that is really exciting. Putting the customer front and center of everything we do is absolutely imperative. In swimming, we see a few user journeys that kind of look like the hills, and then sometimes it's a bit of a cliff face. So an example is a lot of young kids in Australia learn how to swim.
Sure.
All three of my kids are all doing swimming, not right now, but they were all doing swimming and learning how to swim. And then they get to the natural age where they just go, oh, look, I know how to swim now. I'm not interested. I want to do footy or soccer or tennis or whatever it might be, or martial arts, or maybe even surfing.
Oh, come on.
So
Oh, thank you.
it really depends, right? But we see a lot of people that go through the Learn to Swim program and then they generally stop.
Yeah.
For us, it's about how do we continue that journey into club swimming. And then once they're in club swimming or they're a recreational swimmer, they're passionate about the sport. They watch the Olympics. There's 15 million eyeballs in Australia that are watching the Olympics when it's on and watching swimming.
Mm.
And then how do we continue that journey? And I think that's what it's all going to be about for us in 2021. So an exciting time, and a time that I'm really, really looking forward to. And I think 2020, yeah, look, it's been a tough year, but I'm trying to take out a lot of the positives and the silver linings. I think it's an opportunity for organizations to look at their business model, to challenge themselves, have a think about how well they can pivot, how well they can move. And then for individuals as well, that uncomfortable state, that comfort state, which essentially builds growth and resilience. So I'm looking forward to 2021. Hopefully I'll be able to get back on the decks in front of real people, not just virtually.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank
I'll
you.
come.
I don't know how to surf, by the way, Brent. So
Oh, there you
I'd
go.
love to go on a surfboard. We could build a partnership there.
Done. Done. Sounds great. Michael Ciavarella, did I get it right?
You did, and you rolled the R again.
You've been
It's
awesome.
perfect.
Mate,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
Brent.
coming on. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. More than welcome. Thanks heaps.